the content that I saw as somebody who wanted to engage in like a sales community and learn was stuff about like, is cold calling dead or not? You know, here's a picture of us at our company booth at this conference. Like that's like the stuff that you see on the, and now it's just like, here's my work from home desk and here's our team on a Zoom meeting, another screenshot of that. And I'm just like, this is the best that we can come up with. Like, how am I supposed to be empathetic on a cold call? Could somebody explain that to me? Where does the empathy go in me disrupting their day and trying to pitch them? Like, oh, it's how are you holding up? Like that's what you got for me. So it spawned from that. It was just like, this is fluff. This isn't real sales advice. Like this is not how I became a great seller. And everybody's talking about what and not how. Like, how do I write that cold email? How do I do that subject line? Where is it? Is it behind a paid wall? Can't you just tell me? So that's kind of what spawned it. And that's why I say that, because it's the challenge that I put for myself every time I post. I'm like, does this live up to the legit standards? Because the most embarrassing thing would be for somebody to call me out on my stuff and be like, your shit's now fluff. I'd be like, oh my God, what have I become? DeathToFluff started off as a joke with me and a few friends that were just helping me gain traction on my posts in the early days. What's interesting is I started seeing other people use it. And that's when I knew it was cool. I was like, oh, like people get it. Like they say it back now. And now it's morphed into its own thing where like people will like hashtag DeathToFluff on different stuff. But I've said that the goal of DeathToFluff in my mind, the day the mission will be successful, is the day I can open up any major job board like a Monster Indeed or something like that, search sales rep, and not see things like hunter, outgoing personality, aggressive. And I start seeing words like critical thinker, empathetic, great listening skills, the things that we know sellers actually need, because language is culture. And the language that companies and hiring managers and HR use, I'm like, you would never want to deal with a seller you're trying to hire. Like the last thing you'd want to do if you walked into like a shoe store to buy a shoe is deal with a hunter, aggressive, outgoing personality person in your face. I joined a startup that sold to startups. I was one of the first SDR hires there. That manager of mine became like senior vice president at that company, and I loved it. It was really cool. It was never a boring day. There was always some crazy weird challenge to figure out. I get to do things way outside of my job description. I was just like, let's keep doing this. And you're right, it's a big risk. I've had some really bad startups that I've been a part of. I'm also, as much as I'm a 7-time startup, so I'm also a classic job hopper. I wouldn't trade it because it's more problem solving and puzzles than it is traditional sales. And I love that. I mean, like, here's the symptoms of startup sales. There's more to do than time to do it. There's more questions than answers. And usually it's easier to start with what you shouldn't be doing than what you should. Because oftentimes the right answer is one or two things and the wrong answer is many. So it's like, okay, process of elimination. And having that prototype to fail mentality. Like, I want to spend 2 weeks and find out something doesn't work, than spend 2 months doing 3 things and find out, not be sure about any of them, find out I actually don't have a clear answer. So the way you get people to pay attention to you in startup sales is provocation, is to be provocative, because oftentimes by definition, the startup is competing with an incumbent or major player in the space that dominates it. Like, if you work at Salesforce, you don't need to explain to anybody what Salesforce is. They all know what it is. It's just a question of are they going to buy it or not. But when you work for, XYZ company that nobody's ever heard of, that only has 30 customers, you got some explaining to do. Like, I always go back to like Andy Raskin being a big influence on how I sell, like the world of winners and losers. David Primer talks about love and hate and finding what people love and hate. Like it's that provocation, that emotional messaging where people go, yeah, I am looking for something different. And knowing that your provocation is going to lead to a lot of people saying, no, I'm not interested in that. And I'm like, perfect. You just saved me an entire sales cycle. The first sales job I took, we had a 2% call to close rate. And I just couldn't get my head, Elizabeth, around the idea that 98% of what I was going to do was going to lead to failure. And like the company was obsessed with finding a way to make that 2% 3 or 4. But I was obsessed with like, how do I take that 98 and make it like 80 or 75? Like That's insane. How is that normal to tolerate that much failure? Like there's nothing else on the planet that would have that high of a failure rate and be considered acceptable. My productivity hack was I really tried to focus on finding people that showed that propensity to change. Nowadays, it's a lot easier too, because now you can go to a website and look at their tech stack that they're running. And we all know there are certain tools that are far more progressive than others. So you get an indication of how that company thinks. If they are posting on LinkedIn, what do they post about and what do they think? And you can get a gauge of, are this like, again, is this person progressive or not in what they try and do? And these are things that take time, right? That take away, I mean, from just calling a list blindly. But calling a list blindly nowadays, it doesn't work. And it's too easy to do. And there's too many people trying to do it. And like you said, it's noisy. So the more you can differentiate yourself, the better. And finding people who are willing to listen to that differentiation makes all the difference. And we always focus on the sales tactics. Like, what are your like buyer seeking tactics? Like, do you really spend a lot of time actually trying to find buyers, or are you just trying to sell prospects? Because prospects are not buyers. A prospect is a lead. A buyer is somebody who shows intent and actually has the willingness to change. And once you make that jump in your mind of like, I'm not going to sell prospects, I'm going to sell buyers. There's way less of them and they're way better spent with my time than a prospect is. The technology adoption curve, like crossing the chasm, is probably one of the most powerful ideas ever. Like my cousin has an AOL email. Like I love him, but it's got AOL email. It's crazy. I was like, why, man? Like, even Yahoo is better than that. Like, just step your game up, right? He's not somebody you're going to go sell the latest iPhone to. That wrong audience. So when I do discovery, the thing that I'm looking for is this person an early stage adopter of technology? Do they have the willingness to change? Because there's a whole set of people like, I think there's a famous quote by Warren Buffett that's like, nobody ever said they want to work in insurance. It's like, if you're risk averse, highly risk averse, you're drawn to certain jobs in certain positions. And if you're risk tolerant or even risk seeking, you're drawn to different things. I don't want to try to pitch something cool, new, and crazy to somebody who's a risk averse, who's a laggard, who's a late stage adopter of technology. I want to find the early stage adopters of technology. And so just knowing somebody's mentality, what cool tech do they try? What risks have they take? Are they at political risk within their company or not to try new things? Or do they have the leeway and freedom to? These are far more important than are they a product fit for what I'm trying to sell? Because if I can find the early stage adopter, then I can tell them my big vision, and then I can see if they agree with it, and then I have a sale. If I find somebody who's a product fit, but they're a laggard, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to convince them to take the risk of trying something new, even if it is better for them. So I learned this from Corporate Visions, bless them for teaching me. And they give the example of Tylenol, which like Tylenol is acetaminophen. Like that's what it is. Nobody knows that because nobody cares. Like one of the most commonly taken drugs in the world, and nobody cares what it actually is. What it does is it reduces, fevers and aches. But what it means, and when you see a Tylenol ad, it would be like, a mother, she's in the kitchen, she's rubbing her forehead because she has a pounding headache. She pops 2 Tylenols. All of a sudden, the sapient filter disappears. Color comes back to the screen. And she's outside in the backyard playing with her 2 kids. It's the difference between spending an afternoon in misery or having a family moment. That's what it means. B2C brands are really good at telling us what it means to use their product. Right? Like another classic example, Snickers. It's a chocolate bar. That's what it is. What does it do? It fills you up. I mean, it's like a fatty's delight. They don't show you an ad of their chocolate bar. They tell you Snickers satisfies. You're not you when you're hungry. And they show you these ads of like a group of friends standing there and one's being like a whiny brat. And they're like, dude, eat a Snickers and shut up. Like, you're not you when you're hungry. And it makes all the sense in the world and we love it. Why don't we do that with our like B2B product? We're always like, we have a world-class platform. Okay, like that's what it is. What does it do? It saves you time and money. Okay, but what does that mean? Like, tell me what it means to use your product. It's like, well, it's the difference between spending an afternoon sorting through paper in a period of like a deadline crunch because somebody else made a mistake, or not having to do that. It's like, oh, I know that. Yeah, now you're talking my language.